Kiai Haji Ahmad Dahlan, pendiri Perserikatan Muhammadiyah yang memiliki spirit mencerdaskan, mencerahkan, dan berkemajuan sejak dulu hingga sekarang. Buya Hamka, sosok ulama intelektual bangsa yang menginspirasi kami membentuk generasi muda yang unggul dalam kecerdasan spiritual, intelektual, emosional, dan sosial. Universitas Muhammadiyah Profesor Dr. Hamka atau biasa disebut UHAMKA hadir di tengah-tengah kota metropolitan Jakarta dengan lokasi perkuliahan yang mudah dijangkau berbagai sarana transportasi ibu kota. Kemudahan aksesibilitas meningkatkan efektivitas agar generasi muda bisa lebih mudah mendapatkan pendidikan yang lebih berkualitas. UHAMKA, universitas yang mengedepankan nilai al-Islam dan kemuhammadiyahan dalam proses belajar mengajar dan di segala aspek kehidupan, untuk membentuk lulusan yang unggul secara intelektual maupun spiritual.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dengan lisensi akreditasi A yang kami miliki, lulusan UHAMKA bisa dengan mudah memasuki dunia kerja yang serba kompetitif maupun sukses dalam berwirausaha. Karena UHAMKA membekali pribadi setiap lulusan berkarakter, cerdas, kreatif, dan inovatif di era industri 4.0 yang serba digital.
UHAMKA memiliki 10 fakultas dengan sarana dan prasarana perkuliahan modern seperti Fakultas Farmasi dan Sains, didukung oleh tenaga pengajar ahli dengan sarana dan prasarana perkuliahan yang modern untuk mencetakkan lulusan yang handal dalam penelitian kesehatan.
Alasan saya memilih di UHAMKA adalah karena alat-alat yang lengkap dan tenaga-tenaga pengajar di sini adalah dosen-dosen yang profesional.
Salah satu studi unggulan adalah penelitian uji kehalalan bahan makanan. Bidang penelitian ini sering menjadi rujukan perusahaan besar dalam menentukan kehalalan suatu produk. Fakultas Ilmu Kedokteran dengan fasilitas laboratorium yang komprehensif menerapkan sistem belajar mengajar yang selalu bersinergi antara pengembangan teori dengan praktek perkuliahan. Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis membentuk lulusan yang handal di bidang ekonomi dan bisnis keislaman dengan salah satu studi yang diterapkan adalah filantropi keislaman. Sarana perkuliahan juga dilengkapi dengan perpustakaan dengan bahan pembelajaran yang fokus pada studi ekonomi, akuntansi, manajemen, serta perbankan keislaman. Selain itu, terdapat juga laboratorium bank syariah. Fakultas Teknik menerapkan sistem pembelajaran yang mengasah kecerdasan dan kemahiran mahasiswa dalam menguasai bidang studi pilihannya, sehingga dapat berkontribusi langsung pada kemajuan teknologi serta mempersiapkan masuk dunia kerja. Selain itu juga agar mereka mampu mengukir prestasi pada berbagai kompetisi inovasi teknologi.
Kami dari program studi teknik elektro, dan alhamdulillah inilah hasil karya kita, robot pemadam api.
Fakultas Keguruan dan Ilmu Pendidikan. Fakultas Keguruan dan Ilmu Pendidikan memberikan pendidikan secara intensif kepada calon tenaga pengajar maupun pendidik sehingga setiap lulusan memiliki kecakapan sikap, pengetahuan, keterampilan umum, dan keterampilan khusus pada skala nasional maupun internasional, meneruskan reputasi UHAMKA sebagai penyedia profesi guru yang handal dan terpercaya.
Alasan saya kuliah di sini karena akreditasi A. Kelah di sana segala gitu, daftar di UHAMKA.
Dalam mencetak profesi guru yang profesional, proses perkuliahan didukung oleh fasilitas dan metode perkuliahan terkini, mempersiapkan tenaga pengajar yang dapat berkontribusi langsung pada kesejahteraan masyarakat, membentuk masa depan generasi muda bangsa yang cerdas. Fakultas Agama Islam. Fakultas Agama Islam hadir membentuk tenaga pengajar pendidikan agama Islam yang juga mampu mengelola lembaga berbasis keislaman. Fakultas Psikologi mengembangkan ilmu psikologi yang terintegrasi dengan nilai Islam untuk menghadirkan lulusan yang unggul di berbagai profesi ilmu psikologi. Fakultas Ilmu-Ilmu Kesehatan menghasilkan tenaga kesehatan yang unggul melalui pengembangan ilmu-ilmu kesehatan untuk meningkatkan kesejahteraan serta kesehatan masyarakat. Fakultas Ilmu Sosial dan Ilmu Politik dengan program studi utama ilmu komunikasi membentuk lulusan yang unggul di berbagai bidang ilmu komunikasi dengan dukungan pengajar profesional serta fasilitas perkuliahan yang dibuat sama dengan dunia kerja nyata. Sehingga setiap lulusan dapat kompetitif memasuki dunia kerja sekaligus mempunyai jiwa entrepreneurship dalam upaya untuk meningkatkan kesejahteraan masyarakat.
Saya mengambil jurusan ini karena fasilitas di Fisik UHAMKA sangatlah menunjang kebutuhan mahasiswa. Masuk UHAMKA, kalian gak akan nyesal.
Sekolah Pasca Sarjana UHAMKA. Sekolah Pasca Sarjana UHAMKA menjawab tantangan para mahasiswa dan pekerja yang ingin mengejar jenjang pendidikan yang lebih tinggi, juga untuk meningkatkan profesi dan kompetensi bekerja.
Saya memilih UHAMKA karena untuk menunjang pendidikan dan karir saya ke depan, dan karena terakreditasi A sehingga membuat saya yakin untuk memilih kampus ini.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Pusat Neurosains UHAMKA adalah lembaga yang mengkhususkan diri untuk mengkaji bagaimana ilmu tentang otak dan perilaku manusia diaplikasikan di berbagai bidang. Seperti
Kiai Haji Ahmad Dahlan was the founder of the Muhammadiyah Islamic Organization, whose spirit has been enlightening, educating, and advancing people until recently. Buya Hamka is a figure of the nation's intellectual cleric, who inspires us to prepare young generations to excel in the domains of spiritual, intellectual, emotional, and social capability. University of Muhammadiyah Professor Dr. Hamka, or widely known as UHAMKA, is located in the center of the metropolitan city of Jakarta and is accessible to various means of the city transformation. Such an easy access has increased the university effectivity in providing quality education for the young generation. UHAMKA promotes the Islamic values and Muhammadiyah in its teaching and learning processes, and in many life aspects, preparing its graduates to excel intellectually and spiritually.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dengan lisensi akreditasi A yang kami miliki, lulusan UHAMKA bisa dengan mudah memasuki dunia kerja yang serba kompetitif maupun sukses dalam berwirausaha, karena UHAMKA membekali pribadi setiap lulusan berkarakter, cerdas, kreatif, dan inovatif di era industri 4.0 yang serba digital.
UHAMKA has 10 faculties with modern teaching and learning facilities and infrastructure, one of which is Faculty of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences. These faculties are supported by professional teaching staff as well as modern classroom.
Alasan saya memilih di UHAMKA adalah karena alat-alat yang lengkap dan tenaga-tenaga pengajar di sini adalah dosen-dosen yang profesional.
Laboratory facilities and infrastructure to prepare qualified graduates in health research. One of the leading sectors in the faculty is the research on the halal test of food ingredients. Such a research sector has been referred by many large companies in determining the halal category of a food product. The Faculty of Medicines is equipped with comprehensive laboratory facilities and always updates the teaching and learning materials with the current development of theories and application. The Faculty of Economics and Business prepares its graduates with sufficient competences in the field of Islamic economy and business. One among the courses presents the Islamic philanthropy. The teaching and learning facilities are supported with library and other teaching and learning resources that focus on the study of economy, accounting, management, and Islamic banking. The Faculty of Engineering runs a teaching and learning system that develops students' intelligence and skills in mastering their preferable field of study, allowing them to contribute directly to technology advancement and to prepare them to participate in the world of work.
Kami dari program studi teknik elektron dan alhamdulillah inilah hasil karya kita, robot pemadam api.
Faculty of Teacher Training and Pedagogy. The Faculty of Teacher Training and Pedagogy provides an intensive education to potential teaching staff and educators. It promotes each graduate to have sufficient skills and attitude, Islamic piety, general and specific competences at national and international level, maintaining UHAMKA's reputation as a reliable and trusted institution of teacher education.
Alasan saya kuliah di sini karena akreditasi A. Telah di sana segala gitu, daftar di UHAMKA.
In preparing professional teachers, the teaching and learning process are supported by sufficient infrastructure and the current teaching method. This is to prepare future teachers who can contribute directly to the welfare of the community and to prepare the future of the nation's bright young generation. Faculty of Islamic Studies. The Faculty of Islamic Studies here is to prepare Islamic education teachers and to manage Islamic affiliated organizations. The Faculty of Psychology develops psychological sciences that is integrated with Islamic values to prepare for professional graduates that excel in various psychological professions. The Faculty of Health Sciences prepares qualified health workers through the development of health sciences to improve the welfare and health of the community. The Faculty of Social and Political Sciences, with the primary study program, namely Communication Science, prepares its graduates who excel in various fields of communication science. With the support of professional teachers, teaching and learning facilities, the faculty presents the real professional world to the students.
Saya mengambil jurusan ini karena fasilitas di FISIP UHAMKA sangatlah menunjang kebutuhan mahasiswa. Masuk UHAMKA, kalian nggak akan nyesal.
UHAMKA Graduate School. UHAMKA Graduate School addresses the challenges of students and practitioners who are willing to pursue higher levels of education, as well as to improve their profession and work competence.
Saya memilih UHAMKA karena untuk menunjang pendidikan dan karir saya ke depan, dan karena terakreditasi A sehingga membuat saya yakin untuk memilih kampus ini.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Pusat Neuroscience UHAMKA adalah lembaga yang mengkhususkan diri untuk mengkaji bagaimana ilmu tentang otak dan perilaku manusia diaplikasikan di berbagai bidang, seperti leadership, marketing, edukasi, dan sebagainya. Pusat Neuroscience UHAMKA adalah satu dari sangat sedikit lembaga yang mengkaji bidang itu di Indonesia. Jika ada di antara rekan-rekan semuanya yang ingin mendalami tentang otak manusia, silakan bergabung ke UHAMKA.
UHAMKA, a university that facilitates young people to excel in intellectual and spiritual intelligence. It prepares its graduates for global competition and the need of professionals in the Industrial Era 4.0.
Recording in progress.
With all due respect, the 6th UICELL committee is issuing this notification as a signal that the event is about to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, please prepare yourself and take a seat in the designated area. The Honorable Professor Dr. Abdurrahman Agani, MPD, the Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs of Muhammadiyah, Professor Dr. Hamka. The Honorable Mr. Heri Mulyono, PhD, the Head of Scientific Publication Support and Enhancement Unit of University of Muhammadiyah, Professor Dr. Hamka. The Honorable Mrs. Sri Kusumaningsi, MPD, the Chairwoman of the 6th UICELL 2022.
Your Excellency, Dr. Zuraida binti Ismail of Ministry of Education, Malaysia. Your Excellency, Dr. Lyubov Darzinova of Education University of Hong Kong. Your Excellency, Dr. Tony Indrayadi, MPD of IIN Kerinci. Respectable to all researchers, teachers, presenters, and all of our beloved participants of the UICELL 2022. There is no creation before has been created by the only one creator, and every creator need a partner to be perfect. Like a tender water need a stiff drift to be drifting, like a starlight need a dark night to be lightning, and like a great need a great answer by the great audiences. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our warmest greetings. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
As a representative of the event organizer on this beautiful day, let us introduce ourselves. My name is Salman Febriansyah and my partner,
Aliushadza Muadza.
as the master of ceremony who will guide you all through the day session of the 6th
UICELL UHAMKA International Conference on ELT and COL
by the theme
Multilingualism in Digital Language Teaching and Learning Environment, 22nd to 23rd December 2022.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as for the agenda today, we'd like to have 3 sessions of presentation. The first presentation will be delivered by Dr. Tony Indrayadi, MPD of IAIN Kerinci. The first presentation will be delivered by Dr. Lyubov Darzinova of Education of University of Hong Kong. The second, then continued by the second presentation given from Dr. Zuraida binti Ismail of Ministry of Education, Malaysia. And the third presentation will be delivered by Dr. Tony Indrayadi, MPD of IAIN Kerinci. After that, we will have a short break for about 1 hour and continue the rest of the session with a series of parallel sessions conducted on site, recorded, and online. Regarding the general rules of the presentation, the keynote speakers will be given an hour to present their presentation, start the discussion, and do Q&A session. Whilst in the parallel session, presenters will only be given 20 minutes to deliver his or her speech and begin the Q&A. Each session will have person in charge or moderator who will help both presenters and participants steer the discussion.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now moving out to the next activity, the first presentations from Dr. Lyubov Darzinova of Education University of Hong Kong. Her insightful presentations will be presented with the help of our moderator, Mr. Hamzah Puadi Ilyas, PhD, please.
Hello everyone. My name is Lyubov Darzinova. I'm a postdoctoral fellow at the Department of English Language Education, the Education University of Hong Kong. Before starting my presentation, I think Dr. Heri Mulyono deserves a mention. He sent me a friend request on Facebook several months ago, asking me to be an online speaker at this event, UICELL 2022. So here I am. Thank you for your faith in me. I've kept my promise, and I'm here to share about one of the research projects that I have conducted. Some brief self-introduction. For 3 years, I had been doing my PhD in Hong Kong at EDUHK, the Education University of Hong Kong, specifically at the Center for Research on Linguistics and Language Studies. And before moving to Hong Kong, I studied for Master of Arts in Applied Linguistics at the University of Pannonia in Veszprém, Hungary, and Bachelor of Arts in English and German Studies at Kalmyk State University in Elista, my hometown in Russia. By the way, Dr. Silvia Bati, the professor who taught me in Hungary at the University of Pannonia, is the keynote speaker at the conference. And therefore, I feel very humbled and honored to be in the lineup of speakers, and I'm glad that we are meeting again. And I had a great time being your student in Hungary and have been always missing you and our faculty. So prior to embarking on my postgraduate studies, I worked as a regional representative of the School League program in the Republic of Kalmykia from 2013-2017, organizing education projects for secondary school and university students. The School League is an educational program, the purpose of which is to promote in the schools of the Russian Federation ideas aimed at the development of modern education, primarily natural science. So for the past 5 years, I have been conducting psycholinguistic experiments on second language processing, reading comprehension, and the results of which have the potential implications for language pedagogy, specifically computer-assisted language assessment. And given these time constraints, I will try to talk about just one of the experiments of my recent research project. And I think let's move on to that. Determining how humans handle ambiguous input has been one of the interesting and probably major projects, I can say, in psycholinguistics over the course of several decades. We often handle ambiguities at the level of individual word meanings or lexical ambiguity, as well as ambiguities in syntactic structure. And in this presentation, I will try to focus on the second phenomenon, that is syntactic ambiguity, that has received, I would say, relatively less attention in the literature based on some of the language materials. And as we know, meaning of combination of words, that is, for example, of a compound, a phrase, or sentence, arises not just from the meanings of the words themselves, right? So, but also from the way those words are combined. And this idea is known as compositionality. Meaning is composed from word meanings plus morphosyntactic structures. And if structure gives rise to meaning, then there are different ways of combining words that will lead to different sentence meanings. And when that sentence has more than one meaning, it is called ambiguous. Ambiguous in this term means that there are not one, but two or more distinct interpretations available. And in some sentences, ambiguity arises from the possibility of more than one grammatical, syntactic representation for the sentence. I would think about this example. So let's move on to the example. Mary saw the burglar with binoculars. And there are at least two potential locations that the prepositional phrase with binoculars can be adjoined. So if the prepositional phrase is adjoined to the noun bar headed by burglar, then it would be a part of the noun phrase. And in this scenario, the burglar is holding binoculars and Mary sees that burglar. You can see on the top of the slide. But if the prepositional phrase is adjoined to the verb bar headed by saw, then the noun phrase, the burglar, is its own constituent, and with the binoculars gives information about how the burglar seeing event happened. And in this scenario, Mary is using the binoculars to see the burglar, which is on the bottom of the slide. You know, structural ambiguity can sometimes lead to some humorous readings. For example, in news headlines where function words get omitted. For instance, there was this piece of news in December 2017. Several news outlets reported that Lindsay Lohan bitten by snake on holiday in Thailand. And this led to a number of readers to comment about their astonishment that snakes can take holidays. You can see on the slide that there's someone writing on Twitter, "I don't understand how a snake even begins to organize a trip like that." So such syntactic ambiguity generally results from writers' inattentiveness to how sentences are constructed. And that is why readers may be confronted with more than one meaning and kind of become confused in deriving what a writer or producer of that particular thing was intended to say. And there are two kinds of syntactic ambiguity that are stressed out in the psycholinguistic literature. First one is the global, or we also call it permanent ambiguity, which is a special phenomenon in language in which the form or the structure is grammatically accepted, but its content has two or more meanings or illustrations. And the sentence, Mary saw the burglar with binoculars, you remember from the previous slide, is an example of that permanent ambiguity. The second one is local, that is also called temporary ambiguity, entails that ambiguity in a sentence kind of momentarily persists, but it is resolved or disambiguated by the end of the sentence. So the example here is, the girl read the article, smiled. So this is an example of temporary ambiguity. And when comprehending this sentence at first, we have a strong bias to read it as it is the girl read the article, right? But when we arrive at the word smiled, we are puzzled because the sentence has actually no extra or no room for an extra verb phrase. So that we kind of reconstruct the sentence to make it, to make smiled actually as a main verb, and then reread it as the girl who read. And the most curious part in this topic is how syntactic ambiguity is resolved in the course of processing and afterwards. And in my already completed research project, I was more concerned in how ambiguous sentences that are written are resolved. And let's now focus on the potential sources of information that can be utilized to resolve syntactic ambiguities in written language. So the first one is animacy. Animacy is found to be one of the major factors influencing the resolution of syntactic ambiguity. Animate noun phrases are likely to be agents in main verb structures in English. So here you see the example. The witness examined by the lawyer was unreliable. And whereas inanimate noun phrases are likely to be patients in English reduced relative sentences, and the example is again given, the evidence examined by the lawyer was unreliable. The other factor is word knowledge. It is actually a contributing factor in resolving syntactic ambiguity. The example is that we know that the noun phrase, the cops here, the cops arrested the man, is a more plausible agent of the verb arrested, right, than it is in the phrase, the criminals, in the sentence, the criminals arrested the man. You see the difference, right? And then what we will review next, I think this is particularly important to what I did in my research, is that there are principles that are illustrative of another factor, which is a parsing strategy. And it has a role to play in the course of syntactic ambiguity resolution. According to the late closure, incoming lexical items tend to be associated with the phrase or clause currently being processed. rather than with structures that are farther back in the sentence. So when we apply this late closure principle, this results in the low attachment preference. And I think, and researchers also have been arguing that this preference has been innate or universal because it permits for more rapid and less effortful shifts between levels of the syntactic hierarchy. And this trend to attach low is actually very much noticed across Arabic, Basque, Chinese, English, Norwegian, Romanian, and Swedish. And there are other more languages that are already tested. But in the view of the second principle, which is called minimal attachment principle, the parser arrives or attaches, each incoming unit to the phrase structure that is being constructed in order to have as less additional nodes as possible. And among such high attaching languages were named Afrikaans, Croatian, Dutch, French, Greek, Russian, Spanish, and many others. So you can see that the studies actually, not studies, but the researchers that have been studying these languages are actually expressing doubts about the universality of the low attachment or the late closure principle, because some language speakers, as you can see, are seen to actually stick to high attachment. You know, these principles, I think, are better understood based on this example. And for example, the burglar stabbed the housekeeper of the tycoon who hated pizzas. So for example, the parser follows the late closure principle, and it would reach the low attachment interpretation of that it is actually the tycoon who hated pizzas, which you can see on the right of the slide. But if the same sentence is parsed using the minimal attachment principle, it is understood that it was actually the housekeeper who hated pizzas, which is on the left of the slide. Edward Gibson and his colleagues proposed the two-factor model of recency preference and predicate proximity that govern these two principles. Each factor's strength fluctuates across languages, and the model was already tested for English and Spanish and a few other languages, and as well as, interestingly, a non-alphabetic and head final language, Japanese. So it was confirmed based on those languages. And taking into consideration the two principles, this two-factor model, and a very contradicting evidence on the matter, I was particularly curious to know what parsing strategies are adopted by native speakers and language learners in the course of resolving syntactic ambiguities in a different structure. So we may suspect that when resolving syntactic ambiguity, non-native readers may employ their first language parsing strategies, right? In this case, it could be either late closure principle or minimal attachment principle, depending on the language, right? And when they read in a language that is known as their second or maybe third and further. Also, it has been long debated whether non-native speakers can process sentences in the same kind of way as native speakers do. So that is, they apply target language processing strategies. Or do they actually adopt their L1 parsing strategy, which is the first language parsing strategy, and thus kind of experience a certain qualitative deficit in their ability of language comprehension. So for the ongoing study, I chose participial Russian participial relative clause sentences. These sentences actually contain a participial relative clause, or a clause that comprises of a participle. And unlike relative clause ambiguous sentences, which are frequently studied on the Russian material, participial relative clause sentences do not feature any head of a complementing phrase, such as which, who, which, that, whose, that, where, where to, where from, when, or who. So the relative pronoun, I'd say. But they rather deliver the information presented by main and participial relative clauses through ranking the importance of clauses. And indeed, as Volkova, one of the Russian syntacticians, states, participial relative clauses typically do not license any WH phrases, complementizers, and do not carry any independent temporal reference and do not have subjects. And nevertheless, the underlying meaning behind the two sentences stays similar. So here, when conducting Russian linear syntactic analysis of the two sentences, it turns out that the main and relative clauses of the relative clause sentence, they actually put the information that they transmit in the foreground. And while parsing the participial relative clause sentence, we see that participial relative clause is rather moved to the background and turns into a secondary facet, which clarifies the main clause. So result is the consequence of a chain of actions or events, which are expressed qualitatively or quantitatively. I know this is a very weird example, but this is what is given by the researchers, what they do to analyze the two or to contrast the two structures. And the second example, that is result is the consequence of a chain of actions or events expressed qualitatively or quantitatively. So given this distinctiveness of a participial relative clause structure from the often, as I again would like to repeat, often used relative clause structure, the present study aimed to determine attachment preferences of native Russian speakers and English-speaking learners of Russian during processing and comprehension of locally ambiguous participial relative clause sentences. The study, the study of the two-factor model, which I presented, it is Gibson and colleagues, 1996, was taken as a model for this experiment. And the experiment had two dependent variables: online measure, region by region reading times, and offline measure, ungrammaticality judgments. And 26 participants per group were actually required. And I think it was important to include two, maybe more per group, given the potential dropout. And it actually, became like that. And to get that required sample size, the experiment attracted the total of 35 monolingual speakers of Russian and 34 English-speaking learners of Russian. So those who dropped out from the experiment showed either less than 70% comprehension accuracy of fillers or a low proficiency in Russian. And each participant was reading 6 sentences per each condition. Remember, there were 3 conditions: high attachment, low attachment, and middle attachment condition. And fillers by pressing the space in the self-paced reading fashion. They were also asked to respond to questions by choosing one of the 3 noun phrase options. And if the read sentence seemed to them ungrammatical or maybe unacceptable in Russian, they were asked to press the button specified as ungrammatical. And as I mentioned in the previous slide, the stimulus material of the experiment consisted of fillers and experimental sentences. To be exact, the sentences were constructed, the experimental sentences, were constructed to predispose disambiguation of a participial relative clause attachment towards only one noun phrase on account of the participle agreeing in number with it. So therefore, they were, as I said, high, middle, and low attachment conditions. So the example of a high attachment sentence is on the slide. And keeping in mind no force behind the preference to attach middle, both reading times at the critical region and ungrammaticality judgment results of the native Russian speakers in the experiment were expected actually to point at the pattern of high attachment, then low attachment, and then middle attachment preference ordering. And for the English-speaking learners of Russian, it was predicted that low attachment, then high attachment, then middle attachment preference ordering was predicted. And then the generalized linear mixed effects modeling was used to estimate the effect of attachment predisposition by number agreement on reading times at the critical region and the ungrammaticality judgments. To visualize uncertainty in summary points plotted in all graphs, error bars represent the upper and lower 95% confidence intervals here. And in the L1 group, which is the native speakers of Russian, the main effect of attachment predisposition significantly affected the reading times, and they were significantly shorter in high attachment than in middle attachment condition, and also in middle attachment than in low attachment condition. Moving on to the ungrammaticality judgments. The main effect was not significant, and therefore the model was not statistically different from the null model. Now we are talking about the second group, which is the learners of Russian. The main effect of attachment predisposition significantly affected both reading times and ungrammaticality judgments. And the reading times in the critical region were, it was found that they were significantly shorter in low than in middle attachment condition. Whereas middle attachment condition was judged as ungrammatical significantly more often than low and high attachment conditions. You can see on this slide. As a result, it was as expected. The experiment showed that native Russian speakers prefer to attach a participial relative clause high to resolve a syntactic ambiguity. Remember that because the reading times at the disambiguated region were not significantly shorter in the low attachment condition than in middle condition. So it seems that the two-factor model does not apply to Russian, right? And however, the other expectation was not met because there was a statistically similar rate of ungrammaticality among the conditions. But in general, our experiment supports previous researchers and previous research on Russian. These are the studies of Chernova, Chernigovskaya, Chernova and Prokopenia, and Sikerina, which suggest that high attachment preference in native Russian speakers, it is there, all right? So the experiment also confirms what was found for speakers of other Slavic languages, such as Bulgarian, Croatian, Polish, and maybe I can assume that of those languages with flexible word order. And then, as expected, it was also found that learners of Russian prefer to attach a participial relative clause low to resolve a syntactic ambiguity. But they also prefer to do it high because the reading times at the disambiguating region are actually not significantly shorter, as we remember from the slide with the results, in low attachment condition than in high attachment condition. And the presence of both attachment preferences, in this English-speaking learners of Russian group could be overinterpreted as the influence of the two-factor model. But I think it is rather learning of Russian that leads to high attachment preference, in addition to low attachment preference, which comes from their first language. It was also found that English-speaking learners of Russian favor low attachment transferred from their L1, but also high attachment from their L2. This is again determined from that L2 learners judge middle attachment condition as ungrammatical significantly more often than low and high attachment conditions. whereas it was also found that high attachment condition is ungrammatical, not significantly more often than low attachment condition. So here we can make a conclusion kind of thing. Learners are able to integrate native-like parsing strategies into their second language processing, but they cannot surpass their first language preference, in this case, low attachment. They may also apply some sort of first language phenomena, which is more discussed in my project, but I will just mention it. So there is a ambiguity reduction through the Saxon genitive construction, which is unavailable in their second language, which is Russian, to resolve a syntactic ambiguity. And actually, this is in line with the construal hypothesis in that language speakers pursue the pragmatic goal of avoiding the ambiguity. For example, they say, or they read it as the executions of the judgment of the cases, because there is actually a less ambiguous option available. The judgments, executions of the cases. We remember the example, right? Like on the slide. I can return later to discuss. And then overall, this experiment demonstrated that one factor, predicate proximity in the two-factor model, is operative in native Russian speakers, whereas the factor of recency preference is dominant in English-speaking learners of Russian. And the L2 learners actually show attempts to adjust their parsing strategy to the native speakers, but they unfortunately do not exhibit native-like processing because of the first language interference. So as a result, having conducted this experiment, I tackled theoretically important questions of sentence processing research about first language transfer and whether same parsing strategies are applied across different structures and languages. However, since we are at the conference oriented at language educators and about multilingualism in language pedagogy, I would like to focus on the potential implications of this part of my study for that particular field. And from a methodological perspective, the study urges language instructors to be aware of the variation in difficulties that the L2 learners may experience with morphology of the target language. For example, the insensitivity to the number morpheme during processing that I found in the study can be viewed as either performance deficiency or competence deficit. In this particular example, competence deficit refers to the difficulties that result from an incomplete competence in a given second language aspect, whereas the performance deficiency actually implies difficulties in accessing or maybe controlling already internalized competence. So the study also provides data based on empirical evidence that to those instructors of Russian into how literate first language readers process and comprehend the materials of interest, in this case, participial relative clause sentences, so that it can be further decided how best to move their second language learners in this developmental direction. And perhaps the stimuli used in the experiments may be incorporated to language classroom of both first language learners and second language learners of Russian. Despite the fact that humans tend to avoid ambiguity, we remember Grice with this maxim of manner. Materials with syntactic ambiguity are still dominant in the written language, especially in legal, political, academic, and media discourses. The syntactic ambiguity may be introduced intentionally, as maybe it was with the headlines with Lindsay Lohan, to grab attention of a reader or create humor. maybe in news articles, especially headlines. And otherwise, the admission of syntactic ambiguity may be unintentional because it results from an attempt of the producer maybe to keep the material as concise as possible. In this case, we talk about articles of law, academic and governmental documents. And having such materials, I mean the materials that I created for my study, for the experiment, these materials for training in both L1 and L2 language classrooms, I think would explicitly raise awareness of the issue of a syntactic ambiguity in language learners in the short run. And I think in the long run, it may prevent or at least minimize such ambiguity on the part of its producers. And incorporation of syntactically ambiguous participial relative clause sentences with a complex nominal group may also promote effective learning scenarios by accelerating learners' processing of these and maybe some other similar sentences in future and outside classroom, and therefore make the target input to be kind of a step ahead of the learner's current stage of linguistic competence. Thank you so much for your attention.
Good morning, my name is actually
I'm the host for this session. Okay, we have some more minutes to have question and answer. Okay, we are my name is Hamza. I'm the host for this session, for your session actually, and we still have for 20 minutes, about 20 minutes for question and answer. So expect questions from the participants. Okay, since there is no question yet, so I ask question. So your presentation is about.
Do you open?
Yeah. So your okay. So your question is about syntactic ambiguity, yeah?
Yes.
Because mostly we are in EFL teaching learning context, and I just want to know your opinion about the consequences of syntactic ambiguity in language learning, especially in foreign and second language learning. And the second one is whether you have the best strategies of applying this in foreign language teaching. Yeah,
yes, thank you so much for this question. So I think, as I said already, having such materials for training in both, L1 and L2, not just for the language learners that are, the learners of the second language, but also for the native speakers of the language. I think they have to be aware of the issue of the, this syntactic and maybe semantic ambiguity as well. And they understand that with this kind of materials that are ambiguous, they can understand that in future to minimize this ambiguity on the part of them as producers of this ambiguity. Or maybe they will just see while reading, processing sentences, they will be aware they will be aware of that there is this ambiguity, and then it is not me who is who lacks understanding, but it is actually the sentence is quite problematic to understand, that it has several meanings or several grammatical readings, I would say. And I think this incorporation of syntactically ambiguous participial relative clause sentences that reviewed or examined in my study, they may promote this learning in terms of accelerating processing speed, maybe of these sentences, because I think it also is about the speed of processing, how fast and how efficient the parser of those learners, or maybe the processor is, right? So it is important not to just understand at the end or comprehend the sentence, but also to, do it fast in the process. Yeah, so I think this is maybe the short answer to your question. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We are still expecting questions from the participants here in the auditorium or the participants from the Zoom. Okay, so yeah, wait. Okay, so I think there is no more question from participants here in the building, in the auditorium, and also from the Zoom participant. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Lyubov Darzinova. Good luck and wish you all the best. And
Thank you so much.
okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think this is the end of the first session. And we'll have the second session with different presenter and different topic. Okay, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next presentation from our second invited speaker, Dr. Zuraidah binti Ismail of Ministry of Education, Malaysia. This presentation will be aired directly from Malaysia to Indonesia with the assistance of our moderator, Mr. Cahya Komara, SPD MHUM. With equal pleasure, please welcome Dr. Zuraidah binti Ismail and Mr. Cahya Komara. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace be upon you all. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, the honorable committee, guests, presenters, all participants here and in Zoom. Now we are going to continue the session 2 of today's event with Dr. Zuraidah binti Ismail. Before we start, I'm gonna give the information a little bit about the session. Dr. Zuraidah couldn't come to the session, so it will be a recording from her. I would like to introduce a little bit about myself. My name is Cahya Komara. I have been assigned by the committee to be the moderator for this session. I'm very delighted to hear and learn from Dr. Zuraidah about methods, strategies, and approaches in ELT, exploring the learning journey of newly qualified teachers. Before we start the presentations or the recording from Dr. Zuraidah, I would like to read first the CV or personal academic or qualification from Dr. Zuraidah. Her full name is Zuraidah binti Ismail. She holds bachelor degree honors TESOL in 1997 from Chichester Institute of Higher Education, University of Southampton, United Kingdom, and Maktab Perguruan Ilmu Khas, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, twinning program. Then she finished her master degree in Educational Planning and Management in 2010 at the International Institute for Educational Planning, UNESCO, Paris, France. Last, she completed her doctoral degree, PhD, in Education, Curriculum Evaluation 2018 from University of Leeds, United Kingdom. Dr. Zuraidah expertise is in education, curriculum evaluation. She has been teaching since 2003 as the English language instructor, teachers, then lecturer at the English Studies Department, IPG campus,
Ilmu Khas Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Then she became Assistant Director of Center of Academic Excellence in 2009, Institute of Teacher Education Malaysia. She had worked as the Assistant Director of Ministry of Education, Cyberjaya. Currently, she is a Senior Assistant Secretary of Bilateral Sector Strategic Planning and International Relation Division, Ministry of Education, Malaysia. I'm so sorry I couldn't read all the achievement due to the time. For sure, she has been a professional and committed that contribute both national in Malaysia and also international scale. So let's start the presentation from Dr. Zuraida. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to remind one more time that you need to follow the rules to keep silence and the Zoom. You may also prepare for the question that will be informed to Dr. Zuraida later on. Okay, for Dr. Zuraida, time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh, and good day. Dr. Zuraida binti Ismail from Ministry of Education Malaysia. First of all, I would like to take the opportunity to thank the committee of the conference for having me to become one of the speakers for the conference, which is the 6th UHAMKA International Conference on ELT and CEL. So for my presentation today, I would like to share with you one of the sub-themes of the conference, which is the methods, strategies, and approaches in ELT. So for today's focus, I would like to bring all of you to explore the learning journey of newly qualified teachers. What I'll do is to present chapter by chapters. Okay, first of all, I'll take you through the prologue. And the second chapter is From the Alien Land to Wonderland, which is Alice's story. Alice is one of the participants of my study. Okay, next, the third chapter is Salina's story, which is the second character or second participant in my research. And it is actually her passion in becoming a teacher. And fourth one, Slowly But Surely by Ernie, which is the third participants of my research. And for your information, I actually had 6 participants for my study, but for today's session, I would love to share, or I'd like to focus only on the 3 participants here. And the final one is the final chapter of today's presentation. Okay, first of all, the prologue. The aim of the study that I'll be sharing, first of all, is the evolution of the newly qualified teacher's knowledge and belief about teaching and learning. As we all know, in terms of the newly qualified teachers, since they are new, they have actually bring or have a different belief about teaching and learning in the classroom. The second aim of the research or to this presentation is to focus on the factors that might influence the newly qualified teachers' thinking and their classroom practice, okay, in terms of the methods, strategies, and approaches that they actually adopted in their classroom. And the final one, what these experiences suggest regarding adjustment to the content and process of the teacher education curriculum. For your information, in Malaysia, for teacher education in terms of primary schools, the institute that train the trainee teachers are the Teacher Education Institute for primary teachers. However, for the training of teachers for secondary education is by the universities in Malaysia. Okay, the background of the study. Okay, first of all, okay, in terms of teaching, we should actually know that teaching is not just a process of knowledge transmission, but it's more than that, which I will actually later share with you in the presentation. And as Pajaras actually quoted, pre-civic teachers are insiders in a strange land. Why do we say that it's strange land? Okay, so again, I will actually bring you to explore several learning journeys of the newly qualified teachers that I have with me. Okay, since when we say they are insiders, meaning, when they before they actually become pre-service teachers and before they actually become newly qualified teachers, they were in schools, okay, during their primary years, during their secondary years. So they are not new to the environment, but however, when we say strange land, because, being a student, okay, during your school years, definitely is a totally different experience when you are a teacher in schools. Okay, I would like to also share the second quotation by Bob 2003, okay, with regards teachers' cognition. It is actually the unobservable cognitive dimension of teaching, because definitely it is actually what the teachers know, believe, and think. So again, for this one, there are quite a number of factors which affects, okay, how the teacher actually believe and think. And as the background of the research, okay, as I mentioned earlier, Institute of Teacher Education in Malaysia is responsible to run their own independent Bachelor of Teaching, which is actually one of the programs offered, which is Teaching English as a Second Language, TESOL. So like I said just now, they are trained to become English teachers for primary school in Malaysia. So these are one of the diagrams for teachers' knowledge base at the start of their teaching. So before training, when they actually come, or before they actually come to become teacher training in Institute of Teacher Education, many of them actually have a set of prior belief. Okay, when we say a prior belief, it means prior belief on how the students actually learn, or how the teacher actually teach the students to understand the subject matter. So, for example, it can be, drilling. Some of them actually believe that drilling is good because when you drill, you can drill the students through, to actually memorize grammatical rules. But some of the teachers, or some of the newly qualified teachers, they come with, set of my belief that teaching or learning should be fun. So more language games is needed. So not so much of drilling, but it's more of, language game, having fun. Okay, make sure learning is fun. So before training, they come with, a set of prior belief. Okay, next, during training, what happened is actually they have this knowledge learned, okay, in their Institute of Teacher Education with, different courses like teaching approaches, curriculum design, and, the language game activity, and a lot of teaching and learning activities that they gain or they learn during their training years in Institute of Teacher Education. And plus, okay, during training, what they have with them, again, the set of prior belief that they have before this training. And at the end of training, so what they have with them is a set of prior belief, okay, and then the knowledge learned during their training years in Institute of Teacher Education. And last one is experiential knowledge. Okay, this experiential knowledge they actually gain through their teaching practicum. So they have a set of teaching theories that they learn during their training and they try out in school. There's more like a trial and error kind of thing. So they have this experiential knowledge with them, okay, for them to actually bring it during their first year of teaching in school. So for the research methodology that I adopted, I conducted a case study whereby the research instrument, there are 3 different types. The first one is I actually done an interview. The first one is Skype interview, and then I had focus group interview with the participant. And the last one is stimulated recall. Okay, in terms of stimulated recall, it is actually quite interesting if some of you want to try out. So what happened was, during my observation, I recorded the teacher teaching the classroom, okay, in a particular lesson. So once I have recorded, at the end of the session, me and the teacher will actually sit down and we actually go through the video of the one that I have recorded. And I actually instructed the teacher to just stop at any point of the lesson and share why the teacher actually adopted or carried out a particular activity or a particular instruction, and give me justification. So the teacher actually shared, quite a number of interesting justification on why they actually conducted or why they actually carry out such activity in their classroom. Okay, so I suggest if you would like to try stimulated recall, then it'll be a very interesting research instrument. Okay, next. I have also used classroom observation, and what I have with me during the observation is, apart from recording, I had a semi-structured checklist, okay, just to go through, okay, what the teacher have done in the classroom. Normally, it is actually more of some kind of lesson guideline. So I have that with me. And last one is journal entries. So the teachers are asked to actually write a journal entries at the end of the week, just to share whatever they feel about the lesson that they have conducted. Okay, the research participants that I have for the study is 6 newly qualified teachers, and research site is in a particular state in Malaysia. So in terms of a particular state in Malaysia, I actually went to 6 primary schools, and in Malaysia, we have several types of school. But in my study, I focuses on 2 types of school. The first one is national school, and the second one is national type school. And for national type school, I actually went to Chinese type school and Tamil type school. Okay, as for national school, okay, most of the students in national schools consist of Malay ethnic, like me, with the minorities of Chinese and Indian population. And mediums of instruction used is Bahasa Malaysia. And they do have lesson for Mandarin or Tamil languages. However, these particular languages are actually provided by in special case. Normally, if there are 15 students who requested for the lesson, then the schools are obliged to offer the language to them. Okay. So as for national type school, okay, either Chinese or Tamil school. So in Chinese school, they consist of majority of Chinese, and these schools were actually built by earlier Chinese generations to actually give the children the opportunity to study their mother tongue, which is Mandarin. And in national type school, which is Tamil school, okay, the majority are Indians. Mostly, in terms of the location of the school, it is situated in rubber or palm oil plantation estates. Okay, because previously, when we talk about the history of Malaysia, quite a number of Indian, they actually stayed in a rubber or palm oil plantation estates. And the students there actually learn the Tamil language. And for this national type of school, the medium of instruction is either Chinese or Tamil languages. Right. Next, we move on to the research phases for the study. Right. As you can see here, there are actually 4 phases in the study. The first phase started in March through Skype interviews. This is when the participants have just started their teaching career as newly qualified teachers. Okay, they are actually just ended their training in Institute of Teacher Education in Malaysia. So at that point, during my Skype interviews, okay, most of the questions are asked on what are the beliefs for teaching and learning in the classroom. And from that, I move on to phase 2 in April, just to check, okay, whatever they have stated during the Skype interviews, whether or not it is reflected during their classroom lesson or during the lesson in the classroom, during the classroom observation. Okay, next in phase 3, which was conducted in May to July, I had classroom observation, interviews, and journal entries. So over here, you can actually see, the evolution from what they had in March through April. And this is just to confirm, okay, whatever belief that they have in the earlier phase of their teaching career, whether it is actually reflected during the third phase. And the final phase was conducted during the month of August to October. And again, they were asked to do a journal, several journal entries, and I also had the final Skype interview with them. So at the end of the interview, I can see there are actually changes to what they actually know as newly qualified teacher, what they believe to be correct in terms of, conducting the kind of approach, the suitable approach for the students, and whether or not whatever they said during the first Skype interview and in the final Skype interview, whether, their belief actually matches or the belief has changed drastically. Okay, next. Okay, in terms of the characters, okay, they are actually, like I mentioned before, there are 6 newly qualified teachers from TESOL program for primary levels in Malaysia. Although there are 6 characters for this presentation, I will share 3 participants from the studies. Okay, so when we mention about, the stories that I have for the 3 participants, okay, I would like to first share, okay, what actually happened before first year of teaching. So for the past experience of schooling, within this, like 3 different participants, they had experienced differently for, the kind of teaching and learning in the classroom. So like the first participant, she did not really had a very good experience in terms of English language in the classroom. The second one, she loved English so much. And the third one, a bit of, more of like a drilling in the classroom, the kind of drilling you have to memorize the grammatical rules. So 3 of them had like different experience before the first year of teaching. In terms of teacher training, including practicum, I was actually one of the supervisor for their teaching practicum. I can actually see one of the participants actually act differently from, what they choose to appear during their practicum. And, I can see the changes when they are in their first year of teaching. Okay, next. Okay, starting the first year of teaching, you can see their school context since they actually went to 3 different types of school, which is national type and national type and national school. So you can see they were in Chinese school, Tamil school, and national school. The kind of context surrounding them actually have an effect on how they actually deal with the students. You have like different different set of students in the classroom in terms of language proficiencies. Okay, next, when we mention about roles and responsibility, so as newly qualified teachers, okay, they are not just teaching English language in the classroom, but they have to have, like certain role in the school. For example, they have to be class teachers in the classroom, take attendance, collecting fees, and then they actually have after school activities such as, being the teacher advisor for certain clubs, societies, and other responsibilities as well. And the third one, during the first year of teaching, they have actually explored, okay, different teaching practices. It's more of try and error to see what is best for their students and what is best for them. Okay, so you can also see later on the evolution of belief from the start of their teaching career towards the end of their first year of teaching. Okay, the first participant, which is Alice. Okay, so this is Alice. The kind of chapter that I actually choose is from Alien Land to Wonderland. Alien Land because, you know, from being a teacher trainee in Institute of Teacher Education to Wonderland when she is the newly qualified teacher in a new school. So when I say Wonderland, you know, in a classroom full of students, you have different learning abilities, you have a different requirement of from your students. You have to really actually suits your students' need to actually understand them better, which is to actually help them to learn effectively. So this is Alice's story. Okay, before we move on to what happened in the class, so I would like to actually share with you the kind of the character that she has. The first question I asked her during the first interview, I said, okay, why do you want to become an English teacher? So the first answer that she said is, you know, it's actually advice from the school counselor, so why not just try? Second one is the encouragement and motivation from her brother-in-law. And because she said when the offer actually came in, the brother-in-law actually said, oh, why not? Just try. And again, when she got the offer, she said, oh, it's my life. It's my luck. I actually got the offer to become, to be trained as a TESOL trainee. Okay, next. After her training, she was actually posted in National Type Chinese School, whereby, like I mentioned earlier, National Type Chinese School, the majority is Chinese and the rest are Malays and also Indian. In terms of her previous schooling experience, English language subject was very difficult for her, and again, she did not like English at all. She actually find difficulty in adapting or using English because for her, since she won't be using English in her daily life, she found it meaningless for her to learn English. So again, you know, why learn English in the classroom if you don't use it outside? So that is what that is what she experienced during her schooling years. Okay, next. Okay, this is Salina's story. Okay, for her, she had a totally different experience. She actually shared it's actually her passion to become an English teacher. So again, when I asked, why do you want to become an English teacher? Just one simple answer, it's my passion. So Salina loves to become a teacher, and what actually motivates her to become an English teacher is from her previous schooling experience. She said that her interest was English language started in primary school. So she actually said that, you know, in primary school, one of the things that interests her was having choral speaking in the classroom. So she said from choral speaking, she learned how to pronounce the word correctly and, you know, with the rhyme, with the expression. So that was actually one of the activities she loved most during her English class. And that actually influenced her to become an English teacher. And for her first posting, she was posted in National Type Tamil School, which again, majority, 99% is Indian from like Indian community. Okay, next. Okay, what we have with us is Ernie. Okay, in terms of Ernie's story, she was actually one of my trainee during practicum. So I was actually her practicum supervisor. It is interesting to see because for her, when she started to become an English teacher during her first year of teaching, most of the time she will sit slowly but surely because in her classroom, majority of her student, which is like 90%, did not actually understand English, and she had difficulty in, you know, like finding suitable materials, suitable teaching learning activities which can actually help her students to understand English better. Okay, next. You can actually see for her, as you can see here, when I actually asked why do you want to become an English teacher, so she said it was my parents' wish. So, you know, to fulfill her parents' wish, so why not? I just try to, you know, to become an English teacher. And when I said try, so she said like during teaching practicum, she would actually try to do her best okay, to pass, to become a qualified English teacher. But later on, I will share with you what happened during the first year of teaching. So again, she was actually posted in national school. The majority of the people in national school are actually Malays like me. And in terms of previous schooling experience, most of the time she said her English teacher would do drilling. And then she actually have a quote there, a drill and kill teacher, you know, because drilling actually kills her. That's what she said. But again, although she hated drilling, she finds it boring, but it was actually helpful for her. Right. Next, we move on to the key highlights. So as you can see here, the three newly qualified teachers are posted in different type of school. Like Alice, she was in a national type Chinese school, Sarina national type Tamil school, and for Ernie, she was posted in national school. These different type of school actually give an effect to, you know, how the teacher actually react in terms of selecting the teaching materials or teaching approaches in their classroom. So for instance, Alice, she actually had to experience a lot of pressure from the administrator and parents, and she also have heavy workload. So for example, if the school ended at about like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, she had to continue to conduct more of like, you know, extra activity for the students, for giving like extra tutorial for the students, just to help out, you know, with the homework. And also, you know, sometimes to help out with, you know, the language, okay, make sure that the students understand the lesson taught that on that particular day. In terms of the pressure from administrator and parents, sometimes the parents in her school or even administrator would compare, you know, okay, how come she, the way she teaches is actually different from the other teachers, teaching the same English language, but her approach is different. So they would started to question and actually ask her, why not you teach your student according to what other actually practices in the school. So, you know, sometimes she had a wonderful idea of, okay, let's have, you know, fun learning kind of activity in her English classroom. But because sometimes she get the complaints from the parents asking her to, you know, just follow the traditional kind of way in teaching, and they actually complained to the administrator. So at the end of the day, she had to follow what the parents requested. As for Salina, she was very happy. She's very positive as well and willing to take any task in school. She's also very proactive. Okay, whatever given to her, she will do wholeheartedly. However, at times, she was actually putting a show. For example, you know, when I come for my observation, once she actually said, oh, madam, I actually prepared this lesson for you. So, you know, sometimes it's just like, okay, this is show only for me. So I'm not so sure in reality what actually happened. So in terms of teaching resources, she actually used quite a number of, you know, teaching approaches using PowerPoint or teaching and learning materials. Since her school is actually one of the school that was selected to become, you know, like 21st century school program. So this kind of program actually affects her classroom practices because, you know, with the facilities that she has in the classroom, more of, you know, like online learning, or, you know, online or all this multimedia thing in the classroom. So there's a lot of 21st century learning activity that she can conduct because, you know, all the facilities she wanted is actually there. Okay, now as for Ernie, like I said earlier, most of the time she will say, you know, like slowly but surely, just because that, you know, her students had a problem in understanding English language. She had tried her very best to help her student. So that's why she said, okay, slowly but surely her student will improve in terms of English proficiency. So again, however, being her practicum supervisor, it was a drastic change because from what I remember, during her practicum, during her teaching practicum, most of the activities is actually student-centered activity. However, during her first year of teaching, quite a number of activity was actually teacher-centered activity, which is quite mundane and a lot of mother tongue use. Again, for her, she said because 90% of her students could not understand the language. So she said, might as well, I could switch and use Bahasa Malaysia. And there are times that she came in unprepared, you know, being a newly qualified teacher, come to the class unprepared. You know, sometimes it will be shocking, even for the students, you know, okay, when you start the class, okay, what do I want to teach today? Because normally you would have the lesson objective, which actually guide you in your lesson. But again, these are the kind of differences that all the participants actually experience during their first year of teaching. Okay, next, the initial findings. Okay, these are actually the concerns and challenges of the newly qualified teachers. The first one is idealization and realities. Okay, in terms of this idealization and realities, it concerns so much on classroom issues. For example, micro teaching and the one that they experience during practicum versus real classroom. So for example, during micro teaching, they actually teach in front of their friends. And during practicum, what happened was, you know, they would ask their students to behave and inform that, no, my supervisor will be coming and you need to behave. And, you know, if you help me, okay, if you want to answer, make sure you put up your hand, use English language when, you know, I said so, because all these things will actually help them to get good grades, okay, because they will be observed, they will be given marks during their practicum. So that is what they actually told their students. Make sure you behave, you help me, I help you, that kind of thing. Okay, they also make sure that the students use English. So however, in reality, the participants actually realized that they really need to understand their students first, okay, to cater their needs. For example, the third participant said, since, you know, she had a problem in helping her student to understand English language. So there will be a point that they were thinking there's no point of teaching the language if the students hardly understand the language. So most of them, what they experience, if, you know, they have been finding ways to help their students in learning, which is good. So during the initial stage of their teaching career, they tried to avoid mundane activity, you know, the boring one, drilling. So quite a number of them, they tried to have a variety of activities, language game, videos, singing in the classroom to teach grammar, which is very interesting. Okay, next, the concern and challenges that they actually face is the role of mother tongue to actually deliver the content and for them to actually control the class. So again, this is for classroom management issues. So for example, the school culture in national type school, student or teacher will help to translate. So for example, the teacher is teaching in French. If the students can't understand the content, so what the teacher do, they will have to translate whatever instruction on the board. If not, the students in the classroom will help another students to understand. Okay, SJK is actually a national type school. So again, over here, the participant will tend to code switch for them because the justification given is they want to help the students to understand better. So in terms of, you know, if you give the instruction in English and the students don't understand, might as well you just give the instruction in the mother tongue, okay, be it Malay, Chinese or Tamil, that will actually save a lot of time. Next, again, most of the time the students will rely on the teacher for the translation. So once she tried not to use Chinese and Tamil, so it's more of like classroom rule. Okay, only English in my class. If you want to use other language, then you can use it, but we can use it outside the classroom. So what happened? Okay, if you don't understand, if you want to use other language, we can use it, but use it outside the classroom. So in terms of SK, which is national school, since the language proficiency of the students is quite poor, so again, the teacher, which is the third participant, had to translate and use BM in the classroom most of the time. Because again, like I said, 90% of them don't understand simple English, as simple as, for year 2 student, which is about like 8 years old in Malaysia, they don't understand the word read. Okay, so this is what happened in the third participant's classroom. So I've presented the initial findings. So the real findings, okay, the evolution of belief, okay, during the first year of teaching, there are 4 different themes of change. The first one, attitudes towards the use of L1. At the end of their first year of teaching, all the participants had a greater tolerance of L1. The next one is the role of exam. Again, towards the end of their first year of teaching, they, apart from, focusing on content, they focus on achieving the exam goal, which is, at least the students pass the exam, okay? And, try to pass the exam and try very hard to understand the content. The third one, classroom management. So again, in a Chinese type school, for example, the culture is to use cane, but not to cane the student. Is more of like bringing cane to the classroom just to show, okay, please listen to me. But later on, the teacher actually, they prefer to give an advice rather than to bring cane to the classroom, because they feel that, okay, the students are more matured. If you're talking about year 4, year 5, and year 6, which is about like 10 to 12 years old. So they are a bit matured, so it's better for the teacher to give advice. Okay, next, teaching and learning activities and resources. So the changes from digital resources to the use of textbook. So this is what happened, because at the end of the year, the focus is the teachers, they are supposed to finish the syllabus. So like it or not, the focus is to make sure they manage to complete, the 1 year syllabus. Okay, next, I would like to elaborate on the evolution of belief of the newly qualified teachers, which is of the 3 participants. Okay, the first one is actually attitudes towards the use of L1. So initially, though all the participants use English only in the classroom, however, the teacher had to keep reminding the students on not to use other language. But again, if you still remember participants 3, since she had like 90% of the students who did not really understand English language, so she had to actually code switch. In other cases, 2 of the participants allow the students to use L1 but outside the classroom. But most of the time it will be only English in the English language classroom. But if the students wants to use other language, for example, Chinese or Tamil, they can use it, but again, use it outside the classroom. So the first participant actually shared her previous schooling experience. So this is what she said. For primary, most of the teacher, they use code switching. That's why I could understand. But come to secondary, which is the secondary school, the teachers emphasize on English. They wanted us to use English all the time. Even she's Chinese, she didn't use Chinese with us. So I find it very hard for us to understand, and actually I lost interest in the class. So for the first participant, she was saying that, she's a Chinese, she has a Chinese teacher, but the teacher insisted on using English language in the classroom, and that actually put her off. And that is when she said she lost interest in the class. And at the end of the first year of teaching, that's actually a change of, her belief. She actually tried to ask the students, again, she actually asked the students to, use English in the language classroom, but if they still wanted to or if they don't understand, then what happened is she allowed the students to use L1 in the classroom because she didn't want her student actually face the same experience to lost the interest in class. So that is what happened for participant 1. So the change in other participants, they were actually more flexible towards the end. They allow code switch, or they allow students to use national language in the classroom or the use of their mother tongue. So participant 2 actually shared, if I fully use English, they learn nothing. The objective cannot be achieved. So she was thinking, I tried my very best. I already encouraged them to use English, but at the end of the day, if I still use English, they learn nothing, then I can't achieve the objective of the lesson of that day. So that is actually one of the example of the change. Next, participant 3, she said, I have the choice. I can speak English first. I can use English and translate, but there's no impact. The impact isn't strong. The students will use BM straight away. So again, towards at the end of the first year of teaching, quite a number of participants said, rather than asking the students to use English in the classroom. So at the end of the first year of teaching, they said, okay, never mind. They allow the students to use L1. Next, the role of the exam. So the participant actually tried, again, their very best to create fun learning activities to promote the engagement of the students in the classroom. So what happened was they focused on the content and achieving lesson objective. So participant 2 actually said, it's not about getting A, but it's like guiding the students throughout the year. So this is the initial belief that she had. So the focus is, I want to guide my student throughout the year. Okay, I don't really care about getting an A for the students. So for C1, which is participant 1, she believed that exam motivated good student, but not the weak ones, since they are labeled based on the exam results. So, when it comes to the grades, only the good students seems that exam motivates them a lot in terms of learning. So the change, again, at the end of the first year of teaching, the participants actually changed their belief into more of exam oriented. So they said, okay, at least I want them to pass. That's enough. Exam is the benchmark. So I mean, if many students fail, the blame is on us and not the others. So what happened is, that rather than guiding the students, rather than make sure the students master the language, so the focus now is on exam. At least they pass, that's enough. So that is what the focus is now. Okay, next, fun learning versus exam. So although exam is the following year, for example, that time the students is in year 5, the participant have actually prepared her students to, the exam mode. They are in year 5, the exam will be in year 6. But again, she already said, never mind, I will prepare the students at least a year before the exam. So these are the kind of change that you can see from, focusing on fun learning activities towards exam oriented. Okay, next, in terms of classroom management, the teacher actually used different approaches depending on the student's level of proficiency. So different strategies are used for level 1 and 2. So what I meant by level 1 refers to year 1 to year 3 students, meaning 7 years old to 9 years old, and level 2, year 4 to year 6, around 10 years old to 12 years old. Okay, in terms of having to teach in national type school, one of them actually believed about punishment. Since caning is the culture in Chinese school, it is the most effective punishment because it saves a lot of time. It's not that it really works to the student. So again, in terms of time, that is what the participant 1 actually thinks about. Okay, next, different approaches used using ruler to standing during lesson. So again, the third participant also believed that, punishment is the best way. Sometimes she will ask the students to stand during the lesson if the students can't answer like certain question when asked, or she will just use ruler to the students. So what happened is, again, at the end of the final year of their first year of teaching, the belief is more of giving an advice, because for them, since the students are more matured, especially level 2 students, so rather than giving them a punishment, so towards the end, they don't really establish classroom rules, since the teacher actually felt that giving advice is sufficient enough to them. Okay, next. In terms of teaching, learning, activities, and resources, so the kind of materials and activity selection is one of the features of good teaching. So the participant would have language, game, digital or online resources, and towards the end, the use of textbook. Again, this is because, they have to finish like syllabus in a year, so like it or not, rather than having language game, so they would prefer to use textbook in the classroom. So for example, one of the participants have been using, hangman game to teach the vocabulary to her students, okay, for the spelling, definitely. However, since the norm in the school is to use, drilling, for example, students are given 20 vocabulary to memorize, and then the teacher will read out the words, the students will write. So this is what happened in the classroom, in other classrooms. So when, some of the parents were saying, why do you use like hangman game in your classroom? Why not use drilling like other teachers? So participant one said, oh, I have to change. I had actually to change the way I approach spelling activity. No more hangman game, because I was told that drilling is a standardized activity which I should follow. Okay. So what happened next is, in terms of resources and materials, they actually use textbook and recycle materials from their practicum, since they just finished their training. So quite a number of materials from their practicums, they actually use it again. But again, later on, some of them actually adapt the language games or use digital or online resources such as YouTube and other games that they can find online. Okay, which again, their purpose is to attract the students' attention in order to learn the language. Okay, participant 2 actually shared, if I use textbook, they tend to talk. So because textbook is quite boring, I mean, you can't really like communicate with the textbook, and developing own materials is time consuming. And in real life teaching, you don't have to care much about evaluation and marks. The third participant said, long live the textbook, meaning, she loved to use the textbook so much. But this actually happened towards at the end of their first year of teaching. And so there are 4 findings in the study. The first one, all the newly qualified teachers believe change, but in different ways and to different extents. So as you can see from the 3 participants, the teams that I've shared earlier, okay, there are 4 teams. For example, attitudes towards L1, 3 of them have actually changed their belief from, English only in the classroom towards, allowing the students to use L1. But again, for the last participant, Ernie, since, as a start, 90% of a student could not really understand the language. So again, these are the difference that you can see among the 3 participants. The next finding, their change in belief and change in behavior were inconsistent. So again, among the 3 participants, you can see, okay, there are change in belief and change in the behavior. They were not consistent among the 3 of them. And in terms of, again, the teams discussed just now, you can actually see throughout the first year of teaching, they are actually, the evolution of belief from the first year, from when they actually started towards the end of their first year of teaching. And the last one, the factors that seem to have the strongest influence on their belief and their behavior change were the first one, their own personalities, with the set of belief that they have, the experience that they have during schooling, because some of them had a bad experience in their English classroom during their schooling years. Like one of them had, a very positive one. She loved English so much. So again, that is one of the factors that actually influence their belief and behavior in the classroom. Okay, next, their status of newly qualified teachers. One of them was saying that, I'm still new in the school. I'm not allowed to have any say in what I want to do in the classroom, because she actually started off with having, different approach to how spelling should be, different approach on how you teach reading, even writing. Again, she will say, I don't have any say because, the administrator will say, okay, you have to teach like other senior teachers, more of a traditional kind of way. And most of the time she will say, I'm new. I don't really have much opinion that I can contribute to the school and even in my classroom. Okay. And the last one, the contextual reality of the school, which is the ethos and the set of students. So as you can see, there are 3 different types of school. And this actually influence, the way the teacher behave, the way the teacher believe, and the kind of approach that the teacher wants to adapt in the classroom. Okay, next, this is a summary of the findings. So we can see that each individual teacher possesses an individual's unique teaching practices. As we can see, 3 of the research participants have different unique teaching practices because, for them, what they need to do is first, look at their students, okay, find whatever activity that suits them, because at the end of the day, the objective is to help the students to learn the language. Okay, next, there's distinct reactions toward their first year teaching experiences, as well as shared areas of concern. So again, as you can see, the 3 research participants that I shared earlier, okay, there are similarities and differences in the way they teach. So when we mentioned about linking theory to practice, so to what extent these newly qualified teachers can actually link whatever they learn during their training years in Institute of Teacher Education to the current practice in the classroom. Okay, what actually allows them to, link the theory, and what actually demotivates them or stop them from, using whatever theory they have learned to implement it into the classroom. Okay, next, okay, we have finally moved to the last chapter. Okay, so the lesson learned, the first one is there's actually complexity in the change in belief. As you can see, teachers' belief is quite a messy construct, especially when you talk about newly qualified teacher, because, they have a set of belief that they have through their schooling years. And then, through the training, they have actually a new sets of belief plus, whatever belief they had beforehand. And, during the teaching practicum, perhaps, it accumulates a new kind of belief. And when they were posted into new school, they are in their first year of teaching, again, their belief evolve. Next, belief is shaped by interdependent factors. So these are the factors: the role of prior experience, the role of Institute of Teacher Education, okay, where they get all their training, provision of support from the school, especially from the parents and from the community as well, personal attributes, okay, whether or not, the teacher themselves love to teach the language or the teacher have the passions towards teaching, which actually give a greater impact in teaching and learning in the classroom. And next, we actually talk about learning differences, how the teacher can help the students, considering different ability of the students, considering different proficiency of the students. So it is very important for, considering these factors in terms of helping the students. And last one is the role of assessment in teaching and learning. So, like some of the classroom, they were thinking, the participant was saying that, at the end of the day, exam is important. So the focus is more on having the students to pass the exam rather than guiding them towards, understanding the content, learning the language. And the last one, again, like I shared just now, each individual teacher possesses a very unique teaching practices in their classroom. So with that, I would like to thank you. Thank you again to all the participants in this conference, and I would like to thank you again. I would like to thank you again to the committee members of the research. So with that, I thank you. If there's a need to contact me, you can always write an email to me at zuraida.ismail@moe.gov.my. So thank you again. Bye.
All right, please give round of applause to Excellency Dr. Zuraida binti Ismail, the Senior Assistant Secretary of Bilateral Sector Strategic Planning and International Relation Division, Ministry of Education, Malaysia. Again, I would like to inform for the audience here and also in the Zoom, if you have any question, maybe you can write in the chat box with your name and your email, or you can write in the paper and then give it to the committee, and then we will send to Dr. Zuraida. Okay, before we end off this session, I would like to sum up a little bit about Dr. Zuraida's presentation. Being a teacher is not easy. It needs a suitable method, strategies, approaches to, especially for the newly qualified teachers, so the goal of learning can be achieved. The teacher's knowledge is the base, or is really needed, and the foundations of the teachers to have in teaching in the class. And from the research from Dr. Zuraida, she has already explored 6 participants in this case by giving questions through interview and also observation. And from the 3 participants, she gain data or informations about the different character and challenges from the participant, such as Ali's story and Salina's stories, and also the Ernie, in terms of how to deal with the suitable or the best teaching practice or theory in the class. All right, ladies and gentlemen, audience in the Zoom and also in here in the auditorium, we are now at the end of the session 2. On behalf of the organizing committee, we thank you, Dr. Zuraida binti Ismail, for the lovely and excellent presentations you share. Again, we are lucky to have you here today. May I close this session by saying Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now pleased to welcome our other great speaker, Dr. Tony Indrayadi, MPD of IIN Kerinci. His remarkable presentations will be handed to our respected moderator, Mr. Hamzah Puadi Ilyas, PhD. Please.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Still morning, yeah? So good morning, everyone. Yeah, glad to see you all in the second day of the 6th UHAMKA International Conference on ELT and call. Usually we call it UICELL. Again, my name is Hamzah, and I am one of the teaching staff here. And I'll be the host for this session, or the moderator. And I'm personally very happy to see UHAMKA has been conducting this international conference for 6 consecutive years. And this is a great achievement. Congratulations to all the committee. And this morning we have Dr. Tony Indrayadi, would like to share with us the effect of mobile language learning on phonemic proficiency. Dr. Tony Indrayadi, MPD, is the head of Scientific Research Publication Unit, lecturer and researcher at Institut Akademi Islam Negeri Kerinci, Indonesia. He obtained his doctor at the University of Jambi. He is also rewarded as the best graduate of the university postgraduate doctoral program at the 92nd graduation of the 2020 to 2021 academic year. He's currently a part of Indonesian Lecturer Association. Dr. Tony Indrayadi is also now active as a journal reviewer in International Journal Education, Policy Research and Review. He had also attended international conferences in Indonesia and Malaysia, such as Asian Youth Conference, English Education International Conference, and Webinar Scopus. Moreover, he was awarded 2 grants from University of Jambi to support his research in 2020 to 2021. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please welcome Dr. Tony Indrayadi.
It's no problem, Miss Einstein. Yeah. Thank you very much. Good morning. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Maybe moderator forget to tell you, and this night I have sent my bibliography to Mbak Sri, and I just invited to be a reviewer in 2 international reputable journal in Kogen Education. Kogen Education and Mektesol. Both of the journal is Scopus Key 2, Key 2. Yeah. And I just, last time, about one month ago, I just came back from Penunia University. With Pak Heri Mulyono. I did postdoctoral there. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, today actually I will talk about pronunciation. And most of my research, I conducted research, most of my research is on pronunciation. For you to know that pronunciation is very, very important. In Indonesia, we can say that ada juga yang menyepelekan, underestimate about pronunciation accuracy, but this is very important to be mastered by a student, and also very important to be mastered by lecturer too, English lecturer, today I will talk about this one, about the effect of mobile assist language learning, or more on phonemic proficiency. I just conduct my research about, mobile phone only, in teaching pronunciation. Later I will show you how to operate this mobile phone and how to get the application from Play Store. This is very effective, I think. And I have conducted research about that. And maybe these articles I write will be accepted in Scopus Q1 in Polandia, di Polandia. Mudah-mudahan. Okay. Next. Okay, yeah, whatever. Oh, this one. Okay. Okay. Firstly, let's talk about this one first. We talk about what is phonemic. we talk about phonemic proficiency, which is phonemic. Maybe we hard to distinguish, difficult for us to distinguish what is phonemic and what is pronunciation. Phonemic and pronunciation. Phonemic is the, come from the word phonem. But you know phonem, what is phonem? In Indonesia, we can say bunyi, or in English, we can say sound. Yeah, as a student of English, or as a learner of English, and also as a English lecturers, we have to master this one first. By mastering how to pronounce the word correctly, good pronunciation is also considered an indicators. This is good pronunciation or proper pronunciation is indicators of learning success. English learning success, because without proper pronunciation, the if a learner can deliver message, we cannot deliver message clearly when we have bad pronunciation. Nothing. Yeah, this is my research, and then next slide. No. Yeah, this one. As long as I conduct the research, I have conducted research about, about Indonesian learner difficulties in recognizing English letter. In Indonesia, especially Indonesia. Indonesian people have some problem in pronunciation, actually. This is the result of my research when I conduct the research in my university in the UIN Kerinci. I found that this is the indicator of my research. I found that this is the indicator of my research. The first one is motivation, attitude, first language interference, and phonetic ability. These two, the number three and number 4 is the problematic found by the student. Okay, next slide. Next slide, yeah. Students find this problem. The first one is, what we call by first language interference, or the student tend to transfer from first language to, to English, like silent letters. In Indonesia, there is no silent letters in consonants, different with English. In English, there are some silent letters. For example, like island, no, talk, and psycholinguistic. What I mean by silent letters, silent letters is the letters which is not pronounced in English. But in Indonesia, if Indonesian learner, who just study English, new student of English, they will pronounce all of the word. Yeah, when I conducted the research, they pronounce island into Island, and also they pronounce no. Any student who pronounce this word is kno, yeah, and also talk, and then psycholinguistic. They pronounce all of the letter there, but English also like not like that, because why? Because they interfere by their first language. In Indonesia, what we call by epepet. Maybe do you know epepet? Epepet, it is the same as silent letters. Epepet, the vowel which is not pronounced, like jeja, right? Jeja, A in the first, after J is not pronounced. Jeja, jelek. And I thought it is strange if Indonesia pronounce it jeja. Secara tulisannya, they pronounce jeja, but in English, in Indonesia, they pronounce it jeja, jeruk. This is what we call by epepet in Indonesia. It is, occur only in vowels, but in consonant, in Indonesia, we cannot find it. This is, the problem of Indonesian student. They pronounce of the word Indonesia, Island, but this is island. No, talk, not talk. But Indonesian student pronounce is, most of Indian student pronounce, undergraduate student, and also senior high school student, they pronounce talk, walk. This is very hard, right? Walk, talk, chalk. Like Pak Marzul, Yeah, chalk. L is not pronounced. And also ka also not pronounced. No, not kno. Yeah, and also psycholinguistic, not psycholinguistic, not psycholinguistic. Okay, and then phonetic ability. Phonetic ability also problem faced by Indonesian student. They find problem in identifying sound, not s but sound in English, and also kah, not k, kah sound, and also cha. This is I think affricate in phonology. The first one, like any student of Indonesia pronounced it when I conduct the research. This is scenario, but not scenario, scenario, s sound, right? And also the second one, any student pronounce it paskinate. They assume that all of che is pronounced ka, paskinate. But this is fascinate, and then the second one is cheha. This is, cha, because any student make the same pronunciation with change. Yeah, why it is changed? And it is, I think characters must be character, not like that. I mean, the third one, character, ka, and also charisma, and also the fifth one, change, choose. Okay, and then sound change. Sound change also problem for the student. Sound change, I mean, when the word, for example, from singular to plural, like child, all right, child, and it is singular, child. If it is in the plural form, children, and any student pronounce it children. Okay, this children, child, children. And also, you know, for I beg to silent letters, and also any student pronounce writing, writing. Yeah, writing. How poor you are. And, you know, I have experience to teach pronunciation for about 10 years. And I found many students pronounce it. And also, there is any student and pronounce language. This is what we call fossilization. Cannot be changed for a long time, you know. Like, they pronounce language. And I asked them, why do you pronounce this word language? My teachers taught me that language is pronounced language. But language. I asked them, okay, repeat after me. Language. It is very hard to change the habit. This is what we call by fossilization. Okay? And then also from verb to noun, all right? From verb to noun, like produce. This is produce. And in noun, production. Produce and production. Difference, all right? Depend on, you know, later on I will explain to you. And then wife. It is one wife. What about is two wife? Wives. You know, the letter, the F is changed into F sound, is changed into V sound, plus S. Wife, wives. Okay, and then the last one is sign. Sign, it is verb, right? It is also verb. Verb into, you know, into noun. Sign. This is not a signature, signature. Signature. So you have to be we have to be familiar with phonetic if we want to have good pronunciation, and if we want to in order other people understand the message convey. Okay, next slide. Next slide. Hello? Okay. And then we talk about more what I taught you before this. What I call by MOL in teaching pronunciation, I mean MOL is mobile assisted language learning. Mobile assisted language learning, I mean this is very easy actually. very easy for you as a teacher to use this one when teaching in the class, all right? I have such kind of, maybe in Indonesia, or now we can say this is as electronic dictionary. This is very, very easy to operate, all right? Very easy, and also very efficient, because we can bring it to everywhere we like. Not like computer or laptop, right? Computer only we can use in certain place, like in the class, and also, you know, I mean, if we use it in the bus station, I think it is not appropriate. But mall, I mean, mobile phone, we can operate in everywhere, in the bus stop, in terminal, I mean, and also in the cafeteria. When we found problem in processing the word, like when we confuse about how to pronounce, you know, choose whether choose is long u or short u, or when we pronounce, I mean, sit and shed, this one, all right? Yeah, how distinguish this one? We can also use what I call by using what I call mobile assisted language learning in everywhere. When we found, when we would like to practice that, okay? And these applications, actually, I mean, mobile assisted learning. This is, we don't need, you know, it is smaller size without cable. What I say just now. So this is easy to be carried out, easy by both lecturer and student to search and download learning resource anytime and anywhere. This is very easy to operate, and you can bring it to everywhere. You know, like this one, like my mobile phone. Also, I can bring in my packet, and also I can search and I can improve my pronunciation when I found difficulty in pronouncing the word. Okay. Okay. Next slide. This is the application, what I mean. You can find what we call by Oxford Dictionary. Oxford Dictionary, you just, you know, Oxford Dictionary of English, which provide phonetic transcription. There is a phonetic transcription. Transcript, I mean about how to pronounce the word. Phonetic transcription, sound and meaning, division and sentence. I think it is, you know, I need to show you about how to create this one. Like this one. Maybe okay, and then this is very easy to operate. And there is meaning, definition, and sentence examples. And then it is also easy to be used by students as long as the internet connections and available. I mean, this application, it is different with Kamusku. All right, maybe you have ever found about Kamusku. Kamusku also can be used by Indonesian students, but you know this application can be used by all of Alana on the world. Okay, and then the third one is you just choose whether you choose British English or American English. Okay, you just click that. Okay, next slide. Okay, I mean, to examine the effectiveness of MOL in English pronunciation learning, specifically, it's how to determine whether treatment can increase diphthong. I conduct the research on diphthong. What we call by diphthong. Diphthong is combination of two vowel sound. Like in Indonesia, maybe the example of diphthong is I. I in my language, right? My language, I come from Kerinci. We use many I in Kerinci, like Mandai. Mandai is mandi, yeah. Mati, matai, I. This is my dialect. Kerinci is very unique. Kerinci has more than 2,000 dialects. For example, like between my village, beside my village, this is my village, what we call by Sungai Liuk. Beside my village is Kotololo, what we call by Kotololo. And beside that, and what we call by Sumumu. Yeah. The three villages, have different dialect, but we understand each other. There is what we call by Bahasa Pemersatu, Kerinci language, Kerinci dialect. We can understand each other. Yeah, this is Kerinci, so that's why I told you that Kerinci is very unique. You can conduct the research about that, like what I call by I, Mandai, Mandi, Mati, Matai. it's my language. I have ever conducted the research about that. Yeah, I have ever conducted the research. You can open my Google Scholar. Okay. Then, to examine the effectiveness of mobile ACs, I conduct the research on diphthong, especially on 4 diphthong. Yeah, and especially on diphthong. Diphthong, Litona will show you. Specifically, it's how to determine whether treatment can increase diphthong treatment, can increase diphthong recognition or not by comparing pre and post test. In this case, in my research, I compare between, this is what we call by quasi-experiment research. Quasi-experiment. This is very easy, I think. Maybe you have ever to conduct the research about this one. I use 2 classes. Control class. I give them, experiment class. I teach them through MOL. And the second class, I teach them through conventional research. There's conventional treatment. Conventional treatment, here is drilling technique, like repeat after me. Okay, look at here. Book, like that. I compare between these two methods. Okay, next slide. Next slide. So, participant and contact. Participant of my study is, that's why I told you that I used 2 classes. The participants in this study were 37 fourth semester students in my university, in my college. Yesterday, I taught them that pronunciation must be introduced at first semester. But at my university, at my college, pronunciation is taught, is given to students at the third semester. I think this is not good, because I taught them that if we want our student can have good pronunciation, we have to teach them at earlier semester. This is very important to be considered. And head of English department, have changed for this semester. So they will teach pronunciation at early semester, the first semester, semester student from 2 classes, class A and B, only 2 class, and at one Islamic higher education in Jambi, Indonesia. In conducting the research, for publication, we don't need to state the name of the university. It is what we call by pseudonym. It is such kind of part of research ethic in publication. I'm sure you know it, all right? And then I use proportionally sampling technique in selecting the participant. Class A consists of 21, while which randomly assigned as experiment group comprised of 10 male and 11 female, while class B N is student. N is student. N is for about 16 as control group, consists of 4 male and 12 female. Okay? All the participants were between 21 and 20 years of age. For you to know that in experimental, actually, between control class, all right? Between control class, maybe there is any body set like that, that in conducting the research in quasi-experiment, we have, for example, like experiment class is 21, so control group is also mass 21. That's not like that. This is not correct, actually. We can use this one, although this is different, all right? Class A, 21, and class B is 16. I think it's no problem, okay? Next slide. A quasi-experiment, like I said you just now. However, you know, in conducting a quasi-experiment, the first one that you have to consider is you have to conduct such kind of administer, such kind of pre-test first. Pre-test, I mean, you have to know the level of student, the level of the student pronunciation proficiency first. All right? This is what we call by pre-test. And then after pre-test, you know, after pre-test and post-test design was adopted in this study. The pronunciation test was first administered, so what I said just now, in which each diphthong consists of 4 words. Yeah, I only test this one, like the first one is EA. Kalau E terbalik seperti itu, this is like, you know, it is pronounced between A and E, like clear, right? But not long E, right? Later on I will show you. And then, based on the result, most students face difficulties in recognizing EA, all right? AA, yang terbalik itu, that belong to centering and closing, and OI. This is not like Indonesian vowels. Indonesian vowel, O is O, right? Oi, but this is between O and R. Oi, boy, for example, like that. And also, ew, all right? Ew, terbalik juga. Only two student, or 5% could pronounce the 4 diphthong correctly. I mean, after, this is my observation, I found that only 2 students from in the class who can pronounce it correctly. So that's why I conduct the research about this one using MOL, or Mobile Assisted Language Learning. Okay, next. Hello? Yeah. Pre-test was a method to examine the student proficiency, I mean, to answer the research question. Firstly, they have to consider in quasi-experiment, you have to do such kind of normality test first. You have experience about quantitative? Yeah, this is what that you have to consider first. You have to analyze it normality first, I mean the data, and then also homogeneity test, all right? And then in the second session, the experiment group was instructed to download the use of Oxford Dictionary. In the teaching and learning process, we asked the student to download this one. I mean this MOL, Oxford Dictionary. I mean draw what we call by Play Store. You just download it, and you instruct the student. I instruct the student to download this one. To download the use of Oxford Dictionary of English to familiarize themselves with the technical system. After that, I taught course to the student to article targeted diphthong. Okay, next slide. Okay, this one. Diphthong that I test to student, like this one. This is EA, all right? This is ear, all right? Ear, beat. This is British English, I mean, British English. And then era, not era, okay? Era, and zero, not zero. And I found that there is any student who pronounced it zero. What is zero? All right, zero, and then clear, 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 right? And then this is airport, airport, and then whereby, whereby, this spotted diphthong, and this pair, okay? Pair, and then the second Arabic, wherever. This is cheer, all right? Not cheer, chair, chair, not E, right? This one, chair, okay? And also tourism, tourism, UE, itu balik, and surely, surely, obscure, flower, flower, the same as, you know, flower, the same as bunga, all right? But, I mean, to distinguish this one, it is also depend on the context, depend on context in the sentence. And this is security, not security, okay, security, E sound, security, and then pure, okay? And that one is L, this is only, not only, all right? I understand student pronounce it only. It is correct, can be understood by other student or foreigner, but it is not proper pronunciation, only, L, all right? Only. And then, okay, okay, not okay. In Indonesia, maybe if you said okay, okay, I know it. Everybody will understand, but it is not accurately pronounced, all right? Okay, L, all right? Okay, and then boat, boat, loan, loan, L, also L, girl, not go, all right? Not go, girl, L sound, and also slow, okay? I think you are very familiar with this pronunciation. Okay, next slide. Okay, data collection. A student was asked to record their speech using mobile phone. You know, in this case, I asked the student to record their voice, I mean their pronunciation, and send it to me. Okay, and a second, the data collected was sent to the 3 raters. I used 3 raters who have the same scoring technique, the same scoring. After all the data collected, I calculate the score. One of them was pronounced correctly, was given score. I only, you know, I only test the diphthong correctness. If the student can pronounce correctly, so I give score 1. And if the student cannot pronounce it well, I give score O or null. All right. And while the incorrect was given O, as I said to you, as implemented by Foss and Gonzalez in evaluating for vowel sound, vowel sound, to Z vowel, for Z vowel, I mean, and S and Z, contrast spelling department, student at University of Murcia, Spain. Okay, next slide. Next slide. Okay, for data analysis, to find the student pronunciation score, I mean in experimental, what I said just now. Okay, back to before this one, before this slide. Yeah, this one. To find out whether the student pronunciation score was significant or after this. Yeah, this one. Statistical analysis was employed. For you to know that the knowledge of, you know, statistics is very important. I start to study statistics when I take my doctoral at Jambi University. I mean, when I study at senior high school, I hate mathematics teachers, right? Because why? Because, yeah, and until at university. Also, if we talk about statistics, I don't want to talk about that because it is very difficult. But after I study about statistics, it is not difficult, as long as you understand about the way how to explain the data to another people's. I think very easy. You don't need to calculate this A quadrat ditambah C quadrat, not like that. It is such have, I mean, SPSS has I mean, not like that. It is very easy, I mean. Yeah, the first one, the Romanality test was first conducted using Shapiro wheel. Maybe you know what is Shapiro wheel? Shapiro wheel is used, Shapiro wheel and Kolmogorov Smirnov. If the data, I mean, if we have, you know, small data for about 30 until 50 student, under 50 student, we use Shapiro wheel. But if the student is more than 100, we use Kolmogorov Smirnov. This is a statistic. I mean, using Levin test. Jadi uji Levin yang kita pakai, Levin test. Or what we call by t-test in experimental. Okay, and then the significant level of data normal distribution was 0.05. This is the standardized of the test. All right, and then as the data were normally distribute, if the data is normal, so independent sample t-test was used. However, when the data were normally distributed, we use the main weight in the U test, Both tests were used to analyze mean difference between student pre-test and post-test score. Okay, next slide. Yeah, this is the result of my research, my study. Based on the result of Shapiro wheel test, the data of experiment and control group were normally distributed. This is, I mean, before they got treatment, before they get what I call it, before they get mobile assisted language learning treatment. Yeah, we have to do such kind of pretest first. And the mean score is 9.50, 9.57. And control group is 9.66. I think it is a little bit similar. I mean, both of class get score, mean score 9 before they got treatment, mobile assisted language learning. Okay, next. Okay, this is what I call by Levin test. Levin to determine statistical significance and independent sample t-test was conducted. We just, I mean, this is the, you have to check this one first. The independent sample t-test result revealed that, you know, P is 0.50, sorry, 88. I mean, higher than 0.05. Thus, it indicates that there was no significant mean score for the experiment. The experiment group and control group before receiving different treatment. This is the data of free test. There is no difference. They have the same ability before they got treatment, the same score, I mean, the same pronunciation proficiency, the same phonemic proficiency. Okay, continue. Next. To investigate the effect of treatment, both group in the post-test, the main weight in the U test was used. This is what we call by the main weight in the U test. Main weight in the U test was used before, used for measuring phonemic proficiency. If one or both of the data are not normally distributed. So, like I said you just now, that if the data is normal, so we use what we call by, I mean, if the data is not normally distributed, we use main weight in AU, but I mean, this is the result. Not normally distributed based on the normality test is one of both the data don't meet the assumption of variant analysis. Post-test, let's see this one. We just see this one. This is mean rank only. From here, I think it is very clear that the mean score of the student is very significant. Okay, next slide. Next slide. Okay, the effect of different treatment, as I said just now, if the student, get the result this one, the results shown in the table indicate that significant score was lower than lower than 0.05. In other words, there was no significant different score for both group after receiving treatment. This means that, from the result of the study, this means that I can say that MOL is effectively can improve the student pronunciation. I think that's all my presentation. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Pak Tony. Yeah, as usual, it is time for question and answer session. Yes.
That's a very inspiring speech from you, sir. Actually, this is the presentation that I've been waiting for because I'm really interested in learning pronunciations and accent. I have to say that I am a teacher, and then I have one student that asked me a question back then. He said, he was 12 years old, so he likes to play game. He likes to play Minecraft. This is a game where you have to collect bricks, woods, and something else. And then he likes to have a virtual call with his mates outside Indonesia. And then one day he said to his friends, let's have a break, let's have a break. And then his friends from outside Indonesia consider bricks, so he started collecting another bricks. And then my students say that, no, let's stop. I mean, let's have a rest, let's collecting another brick. So at the another day, he asked me, Miss, how to improve, how to know that this word is pronounced like this? Well, I'm not taught like this in my school. I don't have any English lesson teaching about how to read some phonetics. So at the time, I cannot answer the question because in my school, when I was a student, I also did not learn any kind of phonetic lesson. That's the first question. Do you have any solutions to students that doesn't learn any phonetics in school? How to understand that? And then another question, can I? This is actually I like to use Google Assistant very much. I always say to my phone, Google, okay, Google, let's play a song on Spotify. And then when I don't know any words, I always say to my Google Assistant, okay, Google, what is the meaning of flower? And then the Google will show the meaning of flower on Google directly, but sometimes there's a word which have a homophone, and how do we differentiate the meaning when we speak like this? Okay, that's the all of the question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. You know, as long as my experience, during teaching pronunciation, I think this is very hard to teach the student how to pronounce the word. So, like I said to you just now, visualization. So that's why I tell to my friend at that time, to head of English department, that English must be taught at earlier semester, at the first semester. But at my college, last time, 3 semester, 3 years, pronunciation is taught at the 3rd semester. I think, it is not appropriate schedule for us to teach at semester 3. The solution of your student, many students don't believe on teachers when they pronounce. And also, you and me, right? You and me, also the student, we are the same, both of us is, both of us are EFL learner. So difficult to convince the student that our pronunciation is correct. Because why? Because the reason. The solution is by finding what I call just now by mobile-assisted language learning. In mobile-assisted language learning, maybe you can choose both of American and English. It is pronounced by native speaker of English. and native speaker of America who pronounce it. They pronounce it correctly. And like I saw to hear just now, right? They pronounce it correctly. And me myself, when I teach pronunciation, when I teach pronunciation, when I speak in front of the student, I'll also have ever make mistake. I also have ever make mistake. Like, so that's why I use this one. When I find a problem, I open my electronic dictionary. Like when I pronounce anxiety, right? 2 years ago, I pronounced it anxiety. I doubt about it, right? It is correct or not. So I check this dictionary, my electronic dictionary. This is not correct. Anxiety, right? Because why? It is possible because we are as EFL learner. As foreign. Indonesian. English is foreign language in our country. This is the the answer. And for second one, it is for vocabulary. Vocabulary, I think you choose Google Translate, right? Google Translate is, I'm a researcher. I write in many scopus, Scopus and Web of Science, and also reviewer into reputable international journal. It is Kogan Education, and also McTesal in America, in Mexico. For Google Translate, I think as long as you have, right Indonesia. So that's why I told you that, just now, me, myself, I come from Kerinci. I come from Sumatra. So my bahasa Indonesia is influenced by my dialect. Difficult for me. So if the Indonesian is correct, all right, the English will be correct for Google Translate. So you have to be very careful. Yeah, because you live in Jakarta. I think you live in Jakarta. You always use bahasa Indonesia every day. But me, I use my own dialect. So hard for me to speak Indonesia. To make good sentence in Indonesia. Who come from, from kampung like me, all right? Yeah. So I can conclude that as long as you have correct Indonesian sentence, so English will be, you will have a good English for translation, I think that's the answer. Thank you.
Yeah, so does it answer your question?
Probably.
Okay, yes, if I may add, making mistake is very normal, especially for us, non-native speakers of English. And there are always many ways to express something in different way. Yeah, like the example you already said. So when the partner in conversation did not understand the meaning of break, in the context, so your student can change with stop. Yeah, so it is also the way of communication. But the most important thing is we as a teacher, we have to be aware of our pronunciation. So we have to look the received pronunciation. So we then have to imitate, for example, people coming from Texas or for example, from London, because the difference, the pronunciation is like Harry Potter, for example. Yeah, so just pay attention to the received pronunciation. Usually it is stated in a dictionary. Okay, Pak Tony, we still have a question from participants in the Zoom here from Nurdiana. Okay, yeah. You can read here, Pak Tony. So with regard to English as an international language, how significant is learning English pronunciation? In the bracket, American or British English for students?
English is an international language.
Yeah. This is additional information. Yeah, how significant is learning English pronunciation for the students?
Okay. Thank you. That's why I told you just now that, proper pronunciation or good pronunciation is one of indicators of English learning success It is very influenced to our success. Because why? If we make mispronunciation in English, like when we pronounce ship, ship, right? Ship, I mean, kapal, ship. And when we pronounce sheep, long vowel, it is different. But when we make mispronunciation, like, for example, like this one, I have three sheep at home. What do you think about that? Ship is kapal. In Indonesia, maybe I can explain to you. Saya memiliki 3 buah kapal di rumah. So when will you park the ship? All right? If you make mispronunciation. But the correct sentence, you use long vowels. I have 3 sheep at home. Saya memiliki 3 ekor domba di rumah saya. This is the correct sentence. So that's why I told you that pronunciation is very influenced on other people understanding when we speak. All right? When we make mispronunciation, and other people cannot catch the message compare. And also like the difference between the example I gave to you just now, between sit and shit. Maybe we can say, if you make mispronunciation, shit down, please. All right? It is, and other people will understand. But the pronunciation is not appropriate. So I can conclude, Mbak Nur, that pronunciation is very important for English learning success, because it is the standard of our success in English, especially in Indonesia. Yeah, I think that answer. Thank you.
Yes, we still expect, yeah.
Right, thank you so much. The first one that you have showed me about the application before, so I want to make sure what application is that and how we can find it.
Yeah.
Because is there available in Play Store or something like that? That's the first question.
Okay, yeah.
So I want to know that. And the second question is that I realized that how important it is, the pronunciation. And especially because I did the student from different program, different majors, you can say, so that they are not English students. So most of us like from the law faculty or maybe from Islamic studies. So there are, there is English as additional subject. And when I try to convince them that actually pronunciation is really important, but it seemed like they don't really buy it. It's like, well, I speak English to Indonesian anyway, so whatever the pronunciation that I do, they will understand me, right? So they never think that probably one day they will talk to, foreigners or maybe English native speakers. So the question is that how to encourage my student that actually your pronunciation is really important. So maybe you have ways. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. I mean, first, this is, the first is not question, I think. She only wants to know how to get these applications, right? This app, right? You just, check from the, what do you call it? From the Play Store, right? Play Store. And this application will run as long as you have a available internet connection. Not like Kamusku. You have ever seen Kamusku? Yeah, a lot of percent. But I will show you after this, right? Kamusku is only, only can used by Indonesian student because it is, just translation from Indonesia into English. But Oxford Dictionary is English and explain in English. And also there is a sound. If you click American or British, so it will pronounce English. British English. Okay, and then for second question, how to encourage your student? I mean, as long as my experience in teaching pronunciation, we cannot do such kind of what we call by conventional method. All right, you have to try. You have to try to find appropriate, appropriate approach, like what I said just now. This one, the student can work themselves. If they doubt about the pronunciation, they will check after they go home, or when they are in the bus station. I mean, the easiest approach that can be applied in the teaching and learning process, to encourage the student. Many things you can find, especially like electronic dictionary like this, compared to, I don't say that call is not good, call like this one, all right? Call, computer assisted language learning, sure? But call is, we cannot, bring it to everywhere. We cannot offend it, like in the bus station. Yeah, but this application, we can bring it to everywhere. And also, I can, take it in my pocket only. And when I doubt with the word, so I will open it. I will access it, as long as you have internet connection. So the conclusion, you have to find, appropriate teaching methodology for that. Because why? Because for me, my focus, my research is focused on pronunciation. Many things to do with pronunciation, actually. Yeah, I also, last time I conducted research only about, silent letters, many things. And now I conduct the research about this one, about HP only, right? Indonesia HP, but it is accepted in Scopus Q1. This one. All right? Okay, I think this is my answer. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's all, because this is Friday and we have to do Friday prayer. Thank you very much, Pak Tony. So I hope you can do more research with regard to MAL. Yeah, so the name is very easy to remember, MAL. Yeah? Mobile Assisted Language Learning. Yeah, not only related to phonetic, but also other aspects of in the field of EFL. Okay, good luck. Everybody, I think this is the end of first meeting. After this, we have the second meeting after break and prayer. So good luck, everybody. See you again next year. Yeah. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thanks to Mr. Hamzah Pwadi Ilyas PhD for the assistance and Dr. Tony Indrayadi MPD of IAIN Kerinci for the inspiring speech. We would like to ask you to remain on stage, and we would like to invite Mrs. Anita Dewi Ekawati, SS MPD, to come on stage and present the souvenir to Dr. Tony Indrayadi MPD of IAIN Kerinci.
We have come to the end of the sessions of UICELL 2021, Day 2. Ladies and gentlemen, this afternoon, after the lunch break, we are delighted to welcome you back to the presentations room. Regarding on-site presenters, you are encouraged to look over your presentation turns and room details. Additionally, pre-recorded and online presenters are advised to join the proper breakout room for pre-recorded 1 to 3 and online 1 to 3. We also do not forget to remind you that filling out your attendance list is your own responsibility and will be one of the requirements for obtaining a certificate in the future. For now, it's time to enjoy your lunch. Attendees are kindly invited to proceed to the food stall. We hope you enjoy your lunch break. Thank you very much. Please enjoy your lunch.
Menebar kebaikan ke segala arah, bersama membangun kekuatan untuk tetap berdiri dalam cobaan dari macam terpaan. Memberi warna hidup, memeluk masyarakat, guna pengabdian dengan ramuan dan menjadi oase yang menanamkan rasa pada tubuh kendali zaman. UHAMKA, lentera-lentera yang menyala, berada di setiap sudut, memberikan cahaya. UHAMKA, suara-suara kecerdasan dari telinga dan mata Indonesia untuk masa depan berkemajuan. Menjadi oase yang menanamkan rasa pada tubuh kendali zaman. UHAMKA, lentera-lentera yang menyala, berada di setiap sudut, memberikan cahaya. UHAMKA, suara-suara kecerdasan dari telinga dan mata Indonesia untuk memberikan cahaya. UHAMKA, suara-suara kecerdasan dari telinga dan mata Indonesia untuk masa depan berkemajuan. Menebar kebaikan ke segala arah, bersama membangun kekuatan untuk tetap berdiri dalam cobaan dari macam terpaan. Melaju, memberi warna hidup, kemuliaan, memeluk masyarakat, guna pengabdian, dengan pelan dan keseimbangan. Menjadi oase yang menanamkan rasa pada tubuh kendali zaman. UHAMKA, lentera-lentera yang menyala berada di setiap sudut, memberikan cahaya. UHAMKA, suara-suara kecerdasan dari telinga dan mata Indonesia untuk masa depan berkemajuan. Menjadi oase yang menanamkan rasa pada tubuh kendali zaman. UHAMKA, lentera-lentera yang menyala berada di setiap sudut, memberikan cahaya. UHAMKA, suara-suara kecerdasan yang menanamkan rasa pada tubuh kendali zaman. UHAMKA, lentera-lentera yang menyala berada di setiap sudut, memberikan cahaya. UHAMKA, suara-suara kecerdasan dari telinga dan mata Indonesia untuk masa depan berkemajuan. Menebar kebaikan ke segala arah, bersama membangun kekuatan untuk tetap berdiri dalam cobaan dari macam terpaan. Melaju, memberi warna hidup, kemuliaan, memeluk masyarakat, guna pengabdian dengan rapuan dan keseimbangan. Menjadi oase yang menanamkan rasa pada tubuh kendali zaman. UHAMKA, lentera-lentera yang menyala berada di setiap sudut, memberikan cahaya. UHAMKA, suara-suara kecerdasan dari telinga dan mata Indonesia untuk masa depan berkemajuan. Menjadi oase yang menanamkan rasa pada tubuh kendali zaman. UHAMKA, lentera-lentera yang menyala berada di setiap sudut,
Recording stopped.